Update. Am I the a-hole for going to my ex-daughter-in-law's wedding? Original post. I, 56, have 2 children. Bob, 30 male, and Alice, 27 female. And this post is about Bob. He used to be married to my daughter-in-law Ruth, 28 female. That is, until 5 years ago, when Ruth discovered that Bob was cheating on her while she was pregnant with my granddaughter. I was really disappointed in my son. I taught him to be better than this. I am a single mom/widow. My husband died years ago, and I have remarried only after my kids were in their late teens. And I know for sure my late husband wouldn't approve of Bob's cheating. So, long story short, Bob, Ruth, and I had a fight. I told him I was very disappointed in him. How could he do this to his own wife? Bob yelled at me and said that I am his mother, not Ruth's, so I should be taking his side. I said no, I will not support his infidelity under any circumstances. My daughter also thinks that her brother is wrong, but she is neutral about it. Bob got mad and left the house, and I only saw him at the divorce hearings. I left him messages that if he wants to talk, I would be open to talk, but he didn't respond to any messages. Ruth was an orphan. She didn't have anyone else, so she saw me as her mother. So even after the divorce, she would visit me and bring me some gifts like flowers or cookies. I never stopped her. Ruth also never stopped calling me mom even after her divorce, and I love spending time with her and my granddaughter. About 3 years ago, I set up Ruth with my friend Patty's son John. Patty and I have been close friends since childhood. She knew Ruth really well and loved her too, and it was her idea to set her son up with my daughter-in-law. Ruth and John totally hit it off, and John also became a good father figure to her daughter. Recently, John and Ruth got married, and Ruth wanted me to be there to walk her down the aisle. She told me she walked down the aisle alone when she married my son, but now she wants me to walk her down. I was happy for it, so I said yes. The news soon reached my son, and he called me to again yell at me that what I am doing is wrong. I shouldn't be talking to Ruth because she and him are divorced. He forbade me to go. I told him he was being irrational, that even if he's divorced, that doesn't mean I have to cut off Ruth, then remind him that it was his poor choice that led him to this. I didn't listen to my son and went to the wedding anyways. My son got the news and was angry that he kept cursing me that I'm a deadbeat mom who left her own son for a cheap woman. He called me a hypocrite that I didn't go to his wedding when he married his mistress but was gallivanting at Ruth's wedding. My husband is with me, but he says my son has a point while my daughter says otherwise. Was I wrong to go at her wedding? Now for the top comments before reading the updates. Your son ruined your granddaughter's family because he wanted to sleep around. He no longer has any leg to stand on for anything. I'm really glad that you see the situation for what it is, and that you and Ruth have each other, not the a-hole. As a mother, it was a hard choice for me. I tried to be there for him, but his mistress was not a good person. She was a mutual friend of Ruth and my son. She knew that he was married, but still she pursued him. To me, that's not a quality woman. My soul couldn't just bring me to forget the fact that he was so cruel to Ruth when she was vulnerable. Not the a-hole. I can understand how not picking your child's side would make you feel like you did a wrong thing. Son sounds like a spoiled brat who's missing out on his child's life. Be there for your granddaughter and her mother. Also, put some distance between you and your son until he stops verbally mistreating you. You're doing the right thing. Your son doesn't want to feel like he's in the wrong and will not change till he can accept that truth about himself and want to change. Good luck, OP. A parent's job is to teach their kids the right thing. If I support his cheating, that would be enabling him, which I don't want to. For now, I am putting some distance. The last time I had any contact, I messaged him, "You should calm down first and then talk to me. I cannot have a conversation with you if you are acting like a child." You did right, but your son is too selfish to understand how failure he have been. That in fact married his mistress and continued insulting the mother of his child proves it. You have principles and values. Unfortunately, too many people decide to act like nothing happens, but you did not, and good for you. Remind him that his mistress with a ring or not will never be accepted, and you refuse to be there until he decides to wake up and be the man/father he is supposed to be. He only pays child support, and I have hardly seen him spending time with his daughter. I hear Ruth complain about him always making excuses, and he only got more involved when my granddaughter was becoming close to John. I love my son, but I just wish he would have some decency. Edit/update. My son has emailed me to meet him. I guess I will have to meet him now. Now for the full update. First of all, thank you for all your comments. Although I got some late comments calling me a bad mom and a failure, it was nice to see people supporting me. It gave me strength to know was not making a bad decision. So now on to the update. Azan emailed me and said he wants to talk to me. I thought I should have a long conversation with him, so I agreed. But I made some ground rules. He is not allowed to criticize or call anyone any names like the last time and will be civil when I am talking. And he agreed. He came to my house yesterday at noon while my husband was off to work and my daughter was in her room. He sat down and there were moments of awkward silence. He asked me how I was and we had a small talk. I then asked him about his wife, and that's when he started to cry. Not ugly cry, just few tears, but I can tell he is not doing well. So I sat beside him and told him he can tell me. Then he tells me everything. He tells me that he is sorry for how he reacted, that he understands why I might be ashamed of him. He later tells me his marriage is not going well, that his wife is no way near as good as Ruth was. Ruth took care of all his needs and loved him, yet he treated Ruth like trash. And now he is constantly fighting with his new wife. He knew he messed up a lot, which he learned the last time he visited his daughter and she kept referring John as her dad. Bob tried to make her say the word dad to him, and she screamed saying, "You are not my dad." He saw how much happy Ruth was with another man, and he realized what he has lost. I asked him, "Would you have missed Ruth if your wife did those same things for you like Ruth did?" He was silent. I further told him it seems to me that he only kept Ruth in his life because he used her to fulfill his needs. I explained to him about my relationship with his father. We were with each other, not because I fulfilled his needs. We were with each other because we loved each other. And that love didn't stop when one person was at the most vulnerable and weak. But he left Ruth when she was vulnerable and needed him the most. His needs were fulfilled when Ruth was just a housewife working a small job. But as soon as she's no longer needed, he discarded her. It really hit him hard as he was sobbing. He said that he knows he was an awful person, but he was manipulated by that witch, referring to his current wife. To be honest, I lost my cool and yelled that he should stop blaming other people for his mistake. It was his decision to cheat. It was his decision to leave Ruth. And it was his decision to abandon his daughter. He cannot run away from his responsibilities and wonder why nobody is taking his side. Moreover, he hasn't learned anything from his mistakes, because he is still calling his wife vile names. This is the same woman she claimed is better than Ruth. He had a choice not to cheat. He could have pushed her away when she tried to seduce him, but he didn't because in his mind, he made this fantasy that Ruth doesn't care about him, because all she ever wanted was to complete her education. I raised him better than this, and he is not just insulting my upbringing. He is also insulting his own father. And he will only see suffering in his life unless he takes full accountability of his actions. He told me he knows I was disappointed in him, and he wants to make things right. That he is trapped in a bad marriage because God is punishing him for how he treated his daughter and ex-wife. I told him that if he wants to be a good man, he should start by apologizing to Ruth and become cordial with his daughter. I also gave him a reality check that his daughter already sees John as her dad. So I have doubts she would start calling him dad anytime soon, but he would at least try. I told him to apologize to his sister as well. If he is really miserable in his marriage, he should get a divorce or try counseling. Whatever decisions he makes, I will support him. But that does not mean I will forgive his wife, because she has also did Ruth wrong. Unless she makes an apology to Ruth, I don't think I can see her as a decent person. Lastly, I told him that even though I am very disappointed in him, I still love him. I will always guide him to what is right. He will always be my son, but this is his chance to be a better man. I believe in second chances, and this time I hope he cleans up his act. I am proud of him that he acknowledges his wrongdoings. You're a good mom and person. Sometimes it's impossible to outparent patriarchal entitlement. My husband is a wonderful, supportive, loving guy who takes on 50% of the mental load and doesn't think he's a hero for doing so, while his brother is divorced with 2 little ones and just sucks. No cheating, but definitely a similar mindset of only valuing women for how they're supporting him. Same parents. You know, sometimes you can give everything you have yet the kids will turn bad. You can't predict everything. I'm glad Opie made a mature decision. Opie, do your son a favor. Get some therapy recommendations for him and hand him the list. On things like this, one doesn't just clean up his act. That is vague and doesn't tell him how to do it. We need to do with the pull yourself up by the bootstraps mentality when it comes to stuff like this. If he wants to do the work to improve his relationship with his daughter, he has to work on himself, so she can have two dads, frankly speaking. I told him he should get therapy. If he needs money for that, I will give it to him, but he does need therapy. About his daughter, I still have hope. Bob said he has tried to be there for his daughter, but his daughter still wants John as her dad. He has to start with baby steps. He can arrange the custody with Ruth, or simply make full use of his visitations. Despite the possible eureka moment, I have my doubts the son will actually try and make amends. Or if he does, it will be short-lived, as soon as he realizes how much effort is involved. For his daughter's sake, I hope I'm wrong. Daughter already has a good dad, and sounds better off with a bio dad at a distance. Last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to help my mom now that her husband is sick, and throwing the past in her face when she pleaded with me? My mom and I, 25, female, have a contentious relationship. We have been mostly estranged for the last 7 years. I say mostly because she has made some effort to stay in touch, while I faded away. My dad died when I was 4. Mom and him were not married, but they were together. She leaned heavily on my dad's family for a couple of years. Then she moved us away so she could start a better life for us. After moving, she met John and married him. And since then, I was told more than once by John and my mom that John was now my father. And I was told to call him dad, refer to him as dad with others, and not to correct anyone who used the term dad/father, while I was to correct those who said he was my stepdad. I didn't want to do this, but I was punished, and John yelled at me multiple times for disrespecting his love. And I was berated and told he was stepping up to take me on as his daughter, and the least I could do is to respect him as a father. When my mom gave John children, it became very clear he never saw me as his. I was treated differently. I was not given the same anything, yet the rules remained in place that I called John dad and would get punished for any instance of not. Mom always took his side, always backed him up, always agreed that he deserved some kind of respect for his stuff. I still have some bitterness over this. I didn't want John to be my father, but at the very least, if I'm going to be forced to address him as such, and to correct people who spoke the truth, I felt like I should have been treated better at least. But that didn't happen, and I moved out the day I turned 18 and stopped speaking to or seeing my mom and John. She would reach out. Sometimes I would read or listen to her speak, but I felt good not having them around. Now, John has been diagnosed with a neurological condition and my mom is caring for him. She asked me to come and help her, to help him, to help out their children. But I refused. She told me she needed me, they needed me, and that I'm their daughter. I told her I didn't care, I wouldn't help. And after everything they had done, they deserved nothing from me. I told her she failed me as a mother, and as far as I was concerned, they were already dead and buried, and nothing to do with me. She said I was being unfair, holding on to the past too much, and lacking in compassion. She tried to tell me to think of the good times. I told her she failed me. She forced me to say stuff I didn't want to say as a kid, in order to appease her husband who didn't treat me like his kid anyway. Now a family friend reached out after the disagreement, and told me I should be ashamed. And while they were imperfect back then, they are still my family. And that I piled on a woman who is doing the hardest job imaginable, which is caring for a sick loved one. Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. Huge not the a-hole. Your mom and stepdad both failed you as parents. Both of them disrespected your memory of your father. Your stepdad forcing you to call him something he wasn't entitled to and didn't live up to. Your mom choosing him and his kids over you. I mean, the only parent you had left didn't want to protect you. Now she can live by her choice. That family friend can help her if she is so concerned. Because it turns out she is not your friend. Children are dependent on the grown-ups. So when people don't support their kids when they need it, they can't expect to get support when they get older. I wish you a great life and future. Did you ever reach out to your real father's family? Yes, I have them in my life again. They were around as much as they could be when I was a kid, but it was very, very infrequent. The ex forgets. The tree remembers. Well, not entirely. The ex remembers that it lost some sharpness. Go get an apology from John. Then cut contact. Tell them you'll get back in 15 or so years. That's how long they made you wait. Tell your family friend they should be ashamed for not caring for an abused kid. And they can go help the abusers. And then to get lost. Not the a-hole. You have nothing to be ashamed of. Not the a-hole, and tell the family friend to help your mother if they are so concerned. And ask where they were during her mistreatment. Not the a-hole. People tend to get very selective in their memories of how things happened when it suits their needs. And do they need you or your money? For 7 years, he decided he was no longer your father, and your mother made only a token effort to remain in contact. Now there is a need on their part for help. They've decided you are part of their family? You feel that your mother failed you, and that he wanted a title of a father without reciprocating and giving you what you needed as a daughter. Feel free to walk away with a clear conscience. People tend to get very selective in their memories of how things happened when it suits their needs. Yes, 100%. A lot of folks seem to think that abusers commonly forget what they did, just because they say they can't remember specific memories when they're confronted with them. Even if they truly can't recall a particular instance, that doesn't mean they've just forgotten that they were horrible in general. A family friend reached out after the disagreement and told me I should be ashamed, and while they were imperfect back then, they are still my family. There's imperfect and then there's abusive. That so-called friend is lucky they never had to learn the difference. Not the a-hole. Block them all. Enjoy being young and free. And join us here in r/raised by narcissists if you like.